All right, it really is a great day in America. Another great day, of course. It's always a great day when you got two guys here, Kennedy and Trump. Boom, moving along. And we finally got it, the first proof copy of the book, Kennedy and Trump by Greg Fernandez Jr. There's the cover, there's the back. Got to get that handshake, the infamous, famous handshake. I don't know if it's infamous or famous, but it's a great handshake. About 170, 180 pages through lulu.com. It'll probably be the cheapest, easiest way to get it. Go to lulu.com, look for Greg Fernandez Jr. It's not available yet, but it will be out very, very soon. Before you know it. And I believe it's the first book, maybe the only, I hope not the only book on Kennedy and Trump, but definitely the first one on Kennedy and Trump, I believe. Could be wrong on that. Been working on this for about 2.5 years. So it's about time. It's definitely about time. And it's been a fun process. It's been a very, very fun process to watch everything unfold, to look at the way that these two guys came together. Two strong forces, MAGA and maha, to make America great again, to make America healthy again. Nothing wrong with that, I would say. Some might disagree, but I don't think there'd be too many people out there who would disagree with that. And if you do, shame on you. So I am going to play just a little tiny clip here. I always like starting with the clip, but you know what? Yeah, let's start with some clips. Why not? Secretary Kennedy, in case you don't know who this man is, he is the HHS secretary. He's been doing some great things. Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. Hopefully this is showing. It's not showing on the screen yet, but we're going to change that right now. No. There we go. Now we're adding to stage. Now we're looking like we know what we're doing. Secretary Kennedy on X. Still getting used to calling it X instead of Twitter. I think it'd always be Twitter to me, and here we go. So we're going to look at some of the things that Kennedy has been posting and look at some clips as well. Here's one thing Secretary Kennedy has said. Costs in New York State Medicaid CDPAP program rose from $2.5 billion in 2019 to a projected $12 billion in 2025, with future projections on a steep upward trajectory. New York has filed a state plan amendment related to substantial changes to this program, and we are taking a 90-day review period to assess the updates for consistency with federal law. This review allows the federal government to evaluate how the changes affect access to care and evaluate the appropriate use of federal dollars. All right. I do have this 1-minute clip, but I have a better one on. Let me share this. So this is directly from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, is the United States government's principal agency for protecting health of all Americans and providing essential human services, especially for those who are least able to help themselves. Perfect spot for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the man with the plan. Now I'm going to play this. This is Secretaries Kennedy and Rollins visit VA Elementary School. 1-minute clip. Always got to give it that like. I don't need closed captions. I do need the best quality possible. I do need full screen. And I also need to make sure it's not muted. Now that we got all that set up and ready, here we go.
I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm HHS Secretary. I'm here with my cabinet colleague, Brooke Rollins, who's the Secretary of USDA.
Hi, how are you? I'm Dr. Melanie
And
Caroline.
we came here to see this beautiful school and this nutrition program. 60% of the kids in this school depend on SNAP and on school lunches.
Having good, nutritious meals combined with incredible leadership, combined with amazing teaching, which is all in one here in Virginia, is just so inspiring.
Students will be fed.
And we've heard these extraordinary stories from the faculty and the administration of the school about how good lunches and good meals directly impact academic performance in these schools.
And as you can see behind Secretary Kennedy and I, we have a beautiful spread here.
A lot of these programs that affect public nutrition and nutrition for kids are joint collaborations between USDA and HHS. And President Trump asked us to end the chronic disease epidemic, and it takes this collaboration. And we're all working together to make sure that that happens.
It's the first of many stops for Secretary Kennedy and myself over the next 4 years as we work to make America healthy again.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Beautiful. Gotta love it. I do. I hope you do too. Just a short message here. All right. Let's get back into it now. Well. What else do we have? I believe there is another new clip that they have posted. So let me go and look at that. And just go to U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. If you don't know what their YouTube channel is, you're in luck because I'm going to put it right there for you. And when you search for Kennedy, you search for RFK Jr., more than likely you're not going to find this particular channel, but there it is, just at HHS. No problem. You'll find it. So we got some videos live. Hasn't gone live yet on this channel, but I'm hoping that that will change very soon. There are two other videos to play. World Autism Awareness Day. That is definitely one we need to play here.
I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm Secretary of Health and Human Services. And today is Autism Awareness Day. It's the beginning of Autism Awareness Month. I'm very happy to be here.
This is the day that we recognize children like my son. I have a almost 16-year-old nonverbal boy with autism.
This is my my beautiful daughter, Sophie, who's 18 years old. And Sophie is nonverbal with profound autism, and she's a wonderful, wonderful young woman.
We're seeing a growth in these numbers every year. President Trump has directed me to find out what is causing the autism epidemic.
When I saw that the MAHA committee was really committed to looking at autism and the reasons why our children are autistic, I wanted to be part of this.
It means a lot that we have a secretary, a president, and an administration that really cares about the increasing autism rates and what we should do about it.
This agency is going to do everything in its power to ease the challenge that so many of these families face. We're going to rise to meet that challenge.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. It's amazing what you can do. And because part of this is, yes, you want to make people, quote unquote, aware. But aware of what? And aware of what are we going to do about it? And I love that this isn't just like the whole cancer thing. Well, let's all run for cancer. Let's raise money for cancer. And then who knows where that money goes? This is Kennedy saying, yes, twofold. We are going to make people aware of this problem, of this epidemic. But he also makes it clear his responsibility is to figure out what causes this so that we can help stop it. So we can bring this epidemic to an end. We don't see that a lot of times, or maybe it's not vocalized right, or maybe they don't feel that they can do that, or maybe they just don't know. Maybe they have no idea how to solve cancer. What is cancer? It has become such a normal part of our lives that there's so many variables to it. What type of cancer? Where's the cancer at? So autism is a little bit different, but you still have people who are dealing with the tragedies of autistic children. And you can look in their eyes. These are beautiful people, beautiful children. These are God's children, just like all of us. And it's nice to have someone who is not only saying, we're going to spread awareness about it, we're going to find out what is happening, and we're going to fix it. We're going to solve it. Kennedy is not there to just let people know what's going on. They already know what's going on. The people that care and the people that want to do something, the people that live with these children, the people that are raising these children. And in some cases, they're not children anymore too, but they're still, you still got to kind of treat them like children. And it's sad. So I love that Kennedy is not only spreading awareness, he's also saying, we're going to fix this thing. We're going to figure out what is going on here. People say, he's just blowing smoke, whatever. It's worth a try. At least he's trying. And we need to do that. And the problem, the mountain he's going to climb is when he is going to be confronted with, okay, this is where it's coming from. These are the things that are causing it. Now, how do we fix it? How do we get rid of these things? If it's from our food, if it's from the vaccines, if it's from shots, whatever it is from, and if those are $1 million, billion-dollar companies that are standing in your way, if those are advertisers on all of the major news networks, it's a big uphill battle. But finally, the government is going to do something right. The government is going to go after them, is going to sanction them, and in some cases, hopefully, maybe even prosecute them. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a big uphill challenge. But you could see we're not even 100 days in. Well, 36, yeah, maybe close to 100 days in. And look at everything that Kennedy and Trump have been doing so far. And they're just getting started. This is a long uphill journey. They're not playing around. And I think we can all see that. And we'll talk about the hiring, the firing, the people that Kennedy has fired. I heard Kennedy fired Fauci's wife. Well, we got a new NIH director in there, so maybe there's some truth to it. We're hearing a lot of things, but by their fruits, we will know them. There may be one other video on the HHS. There is, and that's actually the one I'm going to play next here. All right, another 1-minute video clip. This is a good one. This is the NIH and FDA swearing in. Kennedy is now swearing in, mother lovers. Let's take a look at this one. It's got to be good.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I'm here with two of the men that I most admire. Repeat after me, please. These are two of the greatest scientists in America, and they are going to transform this agency and bring back the revered place of NIH in our history. We're going to restore that.
I'm Marty McCary.
And we're going to restore FDA to its initial mission.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Diseases and conditions that were rare 2 generations ago are now common and burdening children and the entire system. And no one has been talking about the root causes until now. So thank you for your leadership.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
We need to use the incredible ingenuity of American scientists all across the country and focus them on what really matters, which is to make people healthier so they can live the lives that they're supposed to live.
This is a generational opportunity to apply the scientific standard and process to address all of these problems. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Take your charge and do that.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Marty. Welcome aboard. The revolution begins today.
That's beautiful.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hold on. Okay, that was so nice. We may have to play it twice, only because, and I'll go exactly to those momentary. Well, you can see it right here.
Most admire.
Missed it. There it is. Okay, so you can obviously see these two gentlemen are holding books in their hands. Those books look a little bit like, well, oh, sorry, not that one. This one. This is the book they're holding in their hands. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., American Values. This is a great American book for all great Americans. Written, I think, in 2017, 2018. Let me look at that. 28 copyright 2018. That is a great book. I hope everybody will read. But there's another one that he shows here, and it's there. It is. You can kind of see it in the background. See that red book? Well, let me maximize the screen. See that red book in the background? If you don't know what that book is, well, my friends, I've got a surprise for you. The Wuhan cover-up and the Terrifying Bioweapons Race by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I believe this is 2024. 2023. The Wuhan cover-up. Got to get that one. Kennedy does have a new book coming out. It's been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. It is now pushed back to August. So that should be great. I got my book out before he did. He's a little bit more busier than I am, so I understand that. And his will probably be a lot more longer than mine too. But that was a great video, and I'm glad that he's got his books up there right on the shelf. I think it's awesome. I think everything Kennedy and Trump are doing, I'm all for. I love it. We're going to do what we can do to make America great again. Let me give it that little like before we move on. So those are all of the most recent videos on the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. He doesn't really post anymore on his RFK Jr., the Team One, I believe it. Yeah, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I haven't seen him post anything recently here. The last one was posted 3 months ago with Lloyd Chapman. That would be good. Joel Salatin, that's a good one that you want to see. But yeah, so he hasn't posted anything for about 3 months. And I guess, there's reasons for that. Obviously, he's got work to do. The podcast and all that stuff will always be there. But right now, it is time for Maha. It's time to make America great again. And we are seeing all of the fruits of Kennedy's labor. And as you know, no big surprise, I could not be happier with everything that they are doing. Because I've said it about 4 or 5 times just here during the show as I'm stalling to get to the next clip here. Anyways, I'm very, very happy that this book is on its way. There were just some formatting issues that I found that were all my part in some of this, where the page numbers came out on the wrong side. So this is kind of a blooper reel version, I guess. I'll probably be giving this to my friend Kripperick because I know he won't mind having that with all of the errors in there. Sometimes, like you have, let's say, I don't know if I probably don't have a good example right up here, but like where you have these little chapter, what do you call these there you go, whatever those are right there, things like that. Sometimes you'll have that at the very, very bottom, and then on the next page is where it actually starts. So there are just a few little errors like that. Catherine made sure everything else looks good. And so this book is broken down into 3 parts. Part 2, as you can imagine, when I tell you part 2 is fight, 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 I'm sure you know exactly what we're talking about. When we talk about part 1, I'm sure you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about there too, hopefully. When it says, getting to know you, getting to know all about you. And I'm going to make a little video with that song if I don't get a copyright strike. I've already gotten a copyright strike here on this channel here now. So if you're trying to nuke this channel, now is the time. I've already got one. Just need 2 more and this channel is gone. And yes, I have been literally watching the view counts drop. I don't know how that's possible. One of the, I think it's Kennedy and Trump podcast number 121. It was up to about 100, dropped to like 84, went back to 91, back to 100, dropped to 94. Now it's back at 100. I don't know where it's going to be at tomorrow. So I gave up on all the view count. It's not about all that stuff. But it is just about trying to get the message out there. I hope to do more of that. I don't do any marketing or any big announcement or anything like that, but I am considering, putting the podcast version on Spotify and all that stuff for people that want to watch it. Not exactly 100% sure what to do. And I want to move on to some other books too, but there is so much happening, so much that I didn't know where to stop. I didn't know where this book should actually stop, because do you stop with Trump winning? Do you stop with Kennedy being sworn in? And so I chose to stop with JFK with the fact that the new release that there was going to be a new investigation into JFK. I don't believe we're done yet with all of that too. We have not heard Kennedy talk about the new 80,000 pages that have come out. What is in it? We want to hear that stuff. I really think they're really trying to focus right now. He's trying to focus not on the past, but on the future. And obviously, in order to go forward, you have to, at some point, Kennedy will have to come back to those JFK files. I would not be surprised if he's gone through all of them, if he has already been through most of those previously. And what we're finding is a lot of it just confirms what a lot of us already knew. You'll find some things in there where you'll get this one guy who says all the Jews did it. It's all the Jews. JFK was killed by the Jews. And so then they run with that, because, hey, that's what this one confidential source said. You'll get some other people who will say, well, Oswald was here. He was there. So this informant said it. This informant said it. So it must be true. Whatever you want to say. I've found some Richard Case Nagel stuff, which is, there's really not too much there, but it does confirm more that, to me, that Richard Case Nagel was who he said he was. He was someone who was assigned to watch over Harvey Lee Oswald. Richard Case Nagel was probably maybe even being set up because he looked a little bit similar to Lee Harvey Oswald, except for that big scar that he had. And so I've been following Dick Russell, and because Dick Russell wrote one of the greatest books ever, which I have here. Pull that one up. Oh, if I can get it out. That's what she said. All right. So this right here, The Man Who Knew Too Much by Dick Russell. Yes, it's pretty big. If you want to get the big version of it, this thing is, if you include the notes, it is a little over 800 pages. Okay. But it's filled with a lot of great things. It's got a lot of great sources and some interesting photos. One of the license or the ID for Lee Harvey Oswald, and that Richard Case Nagel had the exact same one when he was found. If you don't know who Richard Case Nagel is, all you got to do is read 700 pages. You'll figure it all out. It's all right there. Actually, I got a 20-minute clip that you could probably get caught up with very quickly. But I decided that I wanted to have this book because obviously when you talk about Kennedy, you talk about Trump, you can venture off into so many different things. You could get to the lockdowns. They talk about the lockdowns. You could focus on the wars. You could focus on JFK. I chose this book would be about their journey to the White House. That's what this really is. Both of them being groomed and presumed that one day they would become someone very famous and would make it to the White House. And they both did. Both did in their own way. Now, obviously, RFK Jr. was in the White House long before Trump ever even saw the White House because of RFK Jr.'s uncle just happened to be the president. So they both have a long storied history together, apart as lawyers, as fighting against each other, and now fighting together on the same team. This is the real unity party. And that's why part 3, I aptly named, correctly named. I'm stalling for names until I get to that page. Part 3 is the unity party. The unity party right there. Now, we have almost come to the end of this. And yes, I have already started on a book 2. I've only got about 30 pages of that. And it was a lot of what Kennedy has been doing since being named the HHS secretary. Catherine's already going to look at that. No rush there. She already knows that. But I wanted to get that in. And it was about 30 pages. And I was like, maybe I should just put this into this book. But no, got to stop it. Got to stop it. Can always be a part 2, an extended book, whatever it is later on. Or just put that out there. But it has been a great process. And I really felt that it was very fitting to end it with JFK. That the fact that The JFK investigation is not over. That's what all of this kind of leads back to. The September 11th investigation is not over. That's coming next. I missed Oliver Stone's testimony. I do need to go back. Maybe I'll play a little bit of that here. I should play his opening statement. I think that'd be kind of cool to play here if I have some time. Where else am I going? What other time do I have? I think that would be a good idea. I like that. Or as I tell people, no, I don't like it. I love it. So I am going to play just a little bit of that. I thought it was very good that Oliver Stone was asked to testify. I want to hear it. I don't know if you've heard it or not. It's a 2-hour thing, so I can't expect everyone
For over
to
6
have
decades, questions
gone through it yet. But I do want to play some of that. Get to what Oliver Stone comes in a little bit later. But Oliver Stone, the reason why I was fixated on JFK or even questioned JFK or even questioned September 11th years later was all because of the movie JFK by Oliver Stone. It's a great one. Now, when I first saw the movie, it was on VHS. We had a VHS player and we had about 6 movies we could watch. That was it. That's all we had. We had Jurassic Park. I can't even remember something, but I remember Jurassic Park because we watched that over and over again. There was about 5 or 6 movies that we had. JFK was one of those movies, and it was a double, right? It was a double VHS. So that was kind of cool too. Oh, we got some extended thing here too. And it's a long movie. It's a great movie. Kevin Costner, I was a big Kevin Costner fan even back then. Loved him. So everything, Joe Pesci, John Candy, the cast is just awesome. Oh, the old grumpy men, the grumpy old men, if you know who that is, they're both in there. The cast is awesome. Tommy Lee Jones, could go on and on and on. Kevin Bacon, man, so such a great cast. All playing, even Newman from Seinfeld is in there. The sister from Roseanne's show, she's in there. I forget her name, but she's in there too, and on and on and on. Anyways, great cast, great movie. Highly recommended. If you have not seen JFK by Oliver Stone, it's great. Not for kids. There's a few scenes in there that are not for kids, but aside from that, it is a great movie. So it's just been, and that's I started writing a book on JFK. There's no way that's ever going to happen for me. I'll probably be 70, 80 years if I ever do, because there's so much there and there's so much that I want to say. But, I've probably written about 100 pages just on JFK and certain aspects of it. A lot of it is on Jim Garrison, Richard Nagel. So maybe I'll put some of that in the second Kennedy and Trump book, but I have no plans on releasing a Kennedy and Trump second book for a long, long time, another year or so maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit of the this is what happened. Oliver Stone testifies on President John F. Kennedy assassination records. So after the new records were released, thankfully we have some great people in our Congress who want to know the answer. This is one of them, Representative Anna Paulina Luna from Florida, Oversight and Government Reform Task Force on the declassification of federal secrets. So not specifically related to JFK, but we know it is. Now, they also promised to do something similar about the events of September 11th. Still waiting for that. Hope to hear more of that. I'm going to play a little bit of this because it is so important. I'll probably skip around a little bit because I do want to hear what Oliver Stone has to say about these new documents, if he's read them. Let's find out.
For over 6 decades, questions have lingered, shrouded in secrecy and speculation. With the recent efforts made to declassify over 80,000 pages of classified documents, fighting against the request of redactions, combined with prior releases under the previous administration, we have an unprecedented opportunity to peel back the layers of the dark day and lay bare the facts for all to see. For the first time in years, we are seeing a complete cooperation between the U.S. government enterprise. Today marks a historical day in our nation's history. After over 80,000 pages were declassified by this administration and previous documents declassified under previous admins were located at the National Archives, it is time to present the findings to the American people so that they can determine the truth for themselves. What has been alarming to me is the amount of stonewalling the federal government put forward to hide this information from the American people. The days of overclassification in the name of national security is coming to an end. The revelations emerging from these files are nothing short of staggering, discoveries that challenge the long-held assumptions and raise profound questions about what we've been told happened on that day. Investigators poring over these pages have uncovered evidence that demands our scrutiny, evidence that suggests the official narrative may have been incomplete at best and at worst deliberately obscured. It has become apparent that in this investigation, some factions of the federal government did not want to be transparent. This type of perspective cannot exist in a free and fair society, and today we have called some great witnesses. To be quite honest, we had more, but for various reasons, those individuals did not want to come forward. I also understand the implications that this has on the family, and it is not our objective to reopen old wounds, but to ensure that what happened to President John F. Kennedy can never happen again in U.S. history. That can only be done if the truth is known to the American people and the facts are able to speak for themselves. The courage of those who are here today, experts in their fields, underscores the gravity of this moment. Their testimony will help us piece together a puzzle that has been fragmented for too long. Let me be clear. There are sincere concerns and discrepancies regarding the Warren Commission pushing forward a narrative without all the facts and, according to testimony of various witnesses, omitting evidence. I would also further argue that the handling of this investigation has largely contributed to the deep distrust the American people have had with the federal government and various intelligence agencies. It is those facts that I hope to present to the American people today. For years, we've relied on a report that, while maybe well-intentioned, was built on a foundation of omissions and half-truths. Now, with these newly declassified documents, we can confront those discrepancies, whether it's inconsistencies in witness accounts, overlooked intelligence, or the troubling indications of interference that investigators are just now bringing to light. This is not about rewriting history for the sake of sensation. It's about honoring our duty to the truth and to the citizens we serve. As we begin this hearing, I ask you to approach it with open minds and steadfast resolve. The American people have waited long enough. They deserve answers, not obstruction. They deserve a government that trusts them with the unvarnished reality, not one that hides behind locked vaults. What we uncover today may unsettle us, but it will also empower us to learn from the past to protect our future and to ensure that transparency triumphs over secrecy. Let us proceed with the seriousness this moment demands for the sake of justice, for the memory of President Kennedy, and for the soul of our republic. Thank you. I would like to now recognize Ranking Member Garcia for the purpose of making an opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, Chairwoman Luna. Before I begin, I just want to just publicly first congratulate you on a, I think, tremendous effort, obviously, within the Congress and your support of new parents in the Congress. And I also want to recognize the hard work that many folks from our caucus as well participated in. But I think that was a very courageous step forward. So I want to just congratulate you on your success so far. And we look forward to the days ahead there. Now, I've been asked to serve as the ranking Democrat on this task force to ensure that we remain focused on transparency and have a focus on the truth. Now, declassification of historical documents and careful review of the research can always provide us new and meaningful information to the public on a variety of topics. Now, for this hearing, I do have some broad remarks about classification, but I want to start with, I think, really grounding us in who President Kennedy was and some facts about the president and his legacy. Now, we know that President Kennedy's assassination was a defining moment in our history and a genuine trauma for millions of Americans and people across the world. It has been, of course, an object of interest for decades. It's also a very human tragedy. President Kennedy was a son, a father, a brother, and a husband, and we should never lose sight of his family. And they're having to revisit this moment over and over again, as of course it's an important moment in American history. And I also don't want to lose sight of President Kennedy's legacy. President Kennedy stood proudly for American leadership. He fought for values all over the world. In the face of Russian threats, he told the free people of Europe that he stood with them. And he told the world, of course, over and over again, that America would stand for peace and for justice. And I want to read a quote that he said that America would, quote, pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty, end quote. We know he founded the Peace Corps, USAID, and his patience and restraint guided the world through the Cuban Missile Crisis. He reminded us that, and I quote, civility is not a weakness and sincerity is always subject to proof, end quote. Of course, he broke barriers with our nation's first Catholic president. And in his inaugural address, he reminded us that we all have the power
I feel
to
a big
abolish
butt coming on,
poverty
but
as a
he's
single
not one of us
mission
anymore,
of the United
so
States and the
screw
world.
him.
He believed in service, he
That's what I
believed
thought he
in
was gonna
government,
say.
and that government could achieve big things. He also, of course, fought for everyday things
Okay, this guy's
Americans
boring
cared
crap,
about. He
isn't
fought for unions. He fought for federal workers to
Let's
organize. He
hear
increased the minimum
from.
wage. And he laid the groundwork for the Civil Rights Act and called upon Americans.
I want to hear from Oliver
In this
Stone.
100 fully declassified for the first time, its pre-assassination file on Lee Harvey Oswald, the accused assassin who denied killing the president and was killed himself in police custody before he could defend himself. I have a copy here of the CIA's pre-assassination file on Lee Harvey Oswald, and I'm submitting it for the record. The declassified Oswald file runs to, and fact checkers can confirm this, 198 pages. In the fall of 1963, in November of 1963, this file was held in the office of James Angleton, counterintelligence chief at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, not 5 miles from the White House where President Kennedy lived and worked. To be sure, the declassified Oswald file is not a smoking gun. I showed it to journalists whose judgment I trust, and they shrugged. They said, this is evidence of incompetence. CYA, they said, cover your ass. I didn't quite believe that, but I couldn't prove them wrong until March 18th. That was the day that the National Archives began posting long secret JFK assassination records that had been withheld from public view for decades. I started by looking at 9 declassified documents about Mr. Angleton. He was the man who compiled the Oswald file. And when I came to a long secret transcript of Angleton's testimony to the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1978, my reservations about passing judgment on the responsibility vanished. One newly declassified passage showed that Angleton had lied under oath about his surveillance of Oswald's correspondence while he lived in the Soviet Union from 1959 to 1962. And that, for me, was a tipping point. The transcript, which the CIA withheld from public view for half a century, confirmed a disturbing fact. James Angleton is the 3rd senior CIA officer known to have lied under oath about what they knew about the alleged assassin Oswald before JFK was killed. The first was Deputy Director Richard Helms. He lied to the Warren Commission in May 1964 when he said under oath the CIA had only, quote, minimal information about Oswald before JFK was killed. 198 pages of information cannot be truthfully described as minimal. The second CIA officer who lied was George Joannides, chief of the Covert Action Branch of the Miami Station in 1963. His agents in the top secret AMSPEL program generated propaganda about Oswald's pro-Castro activities, both before and after the president was killed. 15 years later, in 1978, the CIA inserted Joannides into the House JFK investigation, and he blocked any investigation of contacts between Oswald and his AMSPEL agents. Obstructing Congress cannot be considered evidence of incompetence. And this is what I believe in summary. One false statement might be incompetence. A second false statement might be CYA for the first false statement. But 3 false statements by top CIA officers about Kennedy's accused killer, that is a pattern. It's a pattern of misconduct. It's a pattern of malfeasance. If 3 police officers lie about their knowledge of a homicide defendant, that cannot be considered exculpatory evidence. To the contrary, it shows guilty knowledge and criminal culpability. It is, in a word, incriminating. The new fact pattern leads to a new conclusion. We know now what they knew about Oswald and when they knew it. We know now that Richard Helms, James Angleton, and George Joannides were responsible for or complicit in the death of the president, either by criminal negligence or covert action. My recommendations to the task force are: 1, secure and release the personnel file of George Joannides, and 2, ask the CIA to provide a public statement answering the question, why did these 3 men lie to JFK investigators? The answers will help fulfill the task force goal. The president fulfilled the task force goal.
And I told the Congress men and women about this movie.
I now recognize Mr. Stone for an opening statement.
Right.
Thank you, Chairman Luna, Chairwoman. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, I was here 33 years ago. I was sat in one of these rooms in Washington, and I told the Congress men and women about this movie I just made, JFK. And half of them were wondering what all the fuss was about. It was just a movie. And the other half were passionate in responding to the cries of their constituents that demanded no more national security reasons preventing this from getting to clarity on our president's assassination. The Warren Commission of 1964, as it turned out, got us to second base with a lot of unknowns. And what was that? Obfuscations. And it all got crazier and crazier, sides taken on this and on that. And what happened that awful day? It wasn't clear as to who the heck did this. Killed the president at high noon in Dealey Plaza in Dallas on November 22. And then year by grudging year, we learned in increments a little, but not much more. Often 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And now it's 2025. 58 years since Jack Kennedy was killed in 63. Repeat, almost 60 years. That's about 2 generations. Let's say from 1900 to 1960. As a result of the 1992 hearings that resulted from my film, in which I participated, Congress passed the JFK Records Act, which firmly said all the records out unless you have a strong reason to protest our national security. All the reasons, all the records out, which is exactly what this case was, a national security matter. Our president was killed. What is more important than that? Well, the Assassination Records Review Board really tried for a few years till 1998 to get those records out. But they didn't get any cooperation, although mandated by law from the Central Intelligence Agency, which operated and still operates as a taxpayer-funded intelligence agency that arrogantly considers itself outside our laws. They say things like, we will get back to you on that, and they never do. Or they give me a day and I'll come up with a reason why this matter is a national security matter, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing of importance has been revealed by the CIA in all these years, although we know from other records that there's a illegal criminal activities in every facet of our foreign policy in practically every country on earth. Just to begin, Cuba, Vietnam, Indonesia, Egypt, South America, the Middle East. We could write a whole separate history of our country from the viewpoint of the countries. Yet we do not know and are not allowed to know anything about the CIA's true history of the United States, which is almost, I believe, the real story. There are many people, some in this room today, who do care and remember the details and the clues. There are real people alive with the integrity of a true detective, like that of the fictional detective Sherlock Holmes, willing year by year to track this cold, cold case, to not so much prove it or debunk it, but essentially to know if this so-called democracy of ours has a foundation or a future, a meaning or a purpose for our country, to mean something more than its wealth or its military might, to the people here and all over the world who loved President John Kennedy, who know he really wanted peace in our time. And by that, he said clearly in one of his greatest speeches, not a Pax Americana enforced by American weapons of war, but a genuine peace. A peace he described so beautifully that we could all share in because we all live on this planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures. And we are all mortal. Can we return to a world where we can trust our government to level with us, the people for which this government exists? And if some people in power betrayed our Constitution and chose the path of war over peace,
Okay, I don't know if you noticed, but I am having some weird technical issues. Yep, very strange technical issues going on here. I'm sure it's nothing. Sure it's me. Looks like I'm back. Yeah, that was odd. All right. Let me go back to it. I paused it because it kept freaking out. So I knew there was something going on. Now I'm going to see if I can reshare this. For Mr. Stone. Weird.
knowledge, let us forgive, but not forget the transgressions, and let us praise the representatives, Democrat and Republican, who believe with the vast majority of the American people that the truth is the greatest treasure a Socratic soul can attain in this lifetime. I asked the committee to reopen what the Warren Commission failed miserably to complete. I ask you in good faith, outside all political considerations, to reinvestigate the assassination of this President Kennedy from the scene of the crime to the courtroom, which never happened, but which means the chain of custody on the rifle, the bullets, the fingerprints, the autopsy that defies belief, and that if it were a murder, we'd have given to the poorest man dying in a gutter. Let us reinvestigate the fingerprints of intelligence all over Lee Harvey Oswald from 1959 to 1960, his violent death in 1963. And most importantly, this CIA, whose muddy footprints are all over this case, a true interrogation. James Angleton, before he died, who was one of the original members of the CIA, was talking about Dulles and Helms and the others, what he called the Grand Masters. And he's a Catholic. Angleton was a Catholic in search, perhaps, of repentance before his death. He did say, quote, if you were in a room with them, you were in a room full of people that you had to believe would deservedly end up in hell. I guess I will see them soon.
Wow.
This is our democracy. This is our presidency. It belongs to us. Treat us with respect. Thank you.
Amen. Well said.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. I now recognize Mr. DiEugenio for an opening statement.
Okay, I'm going to cut there. I think that was a lot. Now, RFK Jr., getting back to RFK Jr. for a second. Hopefully the audio is okay. Yeah, looks like it's all right. RFK Jr. was asked about a year ago, maybe less than a year ago, what are your thoughts on your uncle's death, et cetera, et cetera? What's a great book to read? And he's like, if you're going to read any book about my uncle's death, this is the one. You want to read this one, JFK and the Unspeakable. I urge all Americans to read this book. He says this book explains what you need to know about his uncle's death. I'm going to read from the back of the book, which Oliver Stone is on the back of the book too. So you have RFK Jr. and you have Oliver Stone. I'm going to read a little bit of that. You have Yoko Ono. You got to be kidding me. Let me read what RFK Jr. says. In JFK and the Unspeakable, Jim Douglas has distilled all the best available research into a very well documented and convincing portrait of President Kennedy's transforming turn to peace at the cost of his life. Personally, it has made a very big impact on me. After reading it in Dallas, I was moved for the first time to visit Dealey Plaza. Wow, I didn't know that. I urge all Americans to read this book and come to their own conclusion about why he died and why, after 50 years, it still matters. So, after 50 years, RFK Jr. had never visited Dealey Plaza. After reading this book, he does. That's a pretty big endorsement. So, I've listened to I can't read an audiobook. I've listened to the audiobook, but I do want to go back and read the book in its real form. Seems like a great book. James Douglas, JFK and the Unspeakable. I'm going to read what Oliver Stone says. I am not going to read what Yoko Ono says about this. The fact that she's even there bothers me, but whatever. Okay. Oh, boy. Here we go. Okay. Oliver Stone. One of those rare books that, by helping us understand our history, has the power to change it. That's it. I shouldn't have mentioned Yoko Ono is on the back of the book, but whatever. She is. I don't know much about James Douglas or anything, but I do trust RFK Jr. on this issue. I think he was right there. He's been very close, very personal to the whole case. So, and it's crazy that a lot of his family doesn't speak up about this. His RFK Jr.'s would that be his nephew, has come out and is like, doesn't want this stuff to come out, doesn't want any of this. these new 80,000 documents to come out. Like, why wouldn't you want that to come out? So some of these Kennedys are just crazy. But RFK Jr. is not one of those crazy Kennedys. He's the real Kennedy. He's probably the last Kennedy. Well, you want to say he's the last good Kennedy, but he's raising a lot of Kennedys. And so there's a great opportunity, and a lot of Kennedys still support him. There's great opportunity for a Kennedy revival, a revival in the Kennedy family to go along with all of this. But this was one of the biggest challenge for my book of what to keep in, what to take out, what the focus is. Because if I just said, I'm just going to add 100 pages about JFK and I'm going to add 100 pages about COVID, all of a sudden the book isn't about Kennedy and Trump. It's about all this other thing. So save some room for later, Augustus Gloop. All right. I want to go, since I still have a little time here. I got a little time. That can be dangerous. But I am going to go back to Secretary Kennedy. And so we got that about the school that he visited. Oh, this looks interesting. I want to play this here. Let's go through. I don't think this is on anywhere else. It's 1 minute and 5 seconds. This is pretty cool. Yeah. Pete Hegseth. Wonder what they talked about. I can only imagine. Good stuff. I'll bet they're talking about President Kennedy at some point. National security issues, things like that. No, just no audio or anything. Wow, interesting. RFK Jr., baby. That's good stuff. Department of Defense. So there's the video. I probably should have showed the context first. U.S. Department of Defense. So I'm sure maybe that came from the U.S. Department of Defense website. Let's read a little bit about what he says there. All right. So refreshing. We finally have a defense secretary with an open mind and a strong commitment to explore all the options to safeguard the health of America's warriors. Here's what Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says. He says, it was an honor to welcome Secretary Kennedy to the Pentagon. Together, we will ensure our war fighters are healthy and fit to fight. So, all about healthy fighters. Health, right? You have healthy people, you have healthy fighters, healthy country, healthy America. Our country is sick. We got a lot of sick people out there in many different ways. So it's really nice to see what we have going on. Okay, Dr. Martin McCary. We have a generational opportunity to strengthen American health care under the Trump administration. My goal is to build an even stronger FDA that relies on trusted science, transparency, and common sense to meet the agency's public health mission and make America healthy again. Here's what the U.S. FDA said. Today, FDA welcomed the new Commissioner of Food and Drugs, Dr. Martin A. McCary. He shared his vision to unify the FDA as we work to make America healthy again. I got to at least tag that so I can look at it later or something. I think that's fair. FDA, Food and Drug Administration. See, all of these channels that I would never want to be subscribed to or anything, all of a sudden I'm over here. How do I subscribe? I need to subscribe. I want to hear everything because it's all related to what Kennedy is doing. So good stuff there. All right. Let me see if I can go back. Gotta give that a little like and get a little repost there. All right, I think we're coming up to the end. How long have we been going? Yeah, we've been going about an hour or so. Let's see if there's anything else. So that is from April 2nd. I think we have this one. Today, World Autism. Yeah, we got that. There was something else I saw. Okay, this. Yeah, I don't know what this is. Well said, Dr. Badaraka. I don't know what the heck his name is. Polarizing gold standard science is essential to our mission to make America healthy again. Let's listen to this. This is only 30 some odd seconds. Let's hear what he says.
Is that how we get America healthy again? By focusing on foods, fast foods, what ingredients are in our kids' cereals?
I think for something like this, a problem of this scope, it has to be an all of the above approach. Certainly food, the drugs we take, the lifestyle we live, and much else that science hasn't really discovered yet. The way forward is to say what we know honestly, say what we don't know honestly, and give excellent advice based on gold standard science. And as the director of the NIH, that's exactly what I intend to focus the agency on, doing excellent science to improve the health of Americans.
Here we go.
Is that how we get America healthy?
All right, I like it. I'm sure you do too. How could you not like it? Well, you know, some people wouldn't like it. See if there's anything else. I think that's all that I have there. Yep. Then, okay, so I'm going to stop with that. I like the Oliver Stone. I don't know if they've asked, if they end up, I want to see if they ask him any questions later on or anything like that. Because there are some other people that they do kind of go to. Maybe I'll share a little bit of that here.
Face legal retaliation. I hope that's something that can be arranged in the near future.
Thank you. Mr. Stone, if you could for a moment, you had mentioned earlier about some anomalies in the autopsy. Would you be able to speak to that? I have about a minute and 19 left.
One of the things that we did in our documentary, JFK Revisited in 2021, was show as much as we could about the autopsy, including the fact that there are 40 people still alive, as far as I know, who witnessed at Parkland and at Bethesda a large gaping wound in the back of President Kennedy's right head, indicating a shot from the front that blew out the rear of his, and they all point, if you look, there's a picture, they all point to the same place on camera, right here, in the back of his head. That's one very disturbing point. Additionally, there's a lot of inconsistencies in what was seen and done. The tracking of the bullet, the concept of a magic bullet, which deserves a lot of deserves your re-examination. And I think Jim is more expert in this than I. If I can point to him, he's my researcher.
Well, thank you. I'm sure that will be in the next line of questioning. I'd like to now recognize Mr. Garcia for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you again to our witnesses for all of your testimony. Just want to run through a few questions that might bring some clarity on some of the opening statements. And I do want to just recognize also and restate the concerns that we should all have about overclassification over the last few decades, especially when it came to the CIA and the FBI. Mr. Morley, I know you didn't say this explicitly in your testimony. I just want to clarify. I think it's good for the record. Now, we know that your research, of course, is very focused on what the U.S. government knew about Lee Harvey Oswald. I think you made that also very clear. You believe Lee Harvey Oswald fired the shots who killed President Kennedy. Is that correct, sir?
He was not solely responsible for the president's.
The microphone.
No, I don't believe that President Lee Harvey Oswald shot President Kennedy. I don't think the evidence supports that.
You don't think the evidence supports he fired the shots?
He might have fired a gun. He was not the intellectual author of the president's death.
Okay, and I wanted to clarify because I think the firing of the shots. Just wanted to clarify that you do believe that he fired the shots.
No, I don't.
Okay.
That has not been determined by the evidence.
Okay. Well, I want to just get you to clarify that. Now, I want to also just say a few points. You, Mr. Morley, you have said that the CIA was not
This is
forthcoming
so
with Congress
weird.
past investigations. Correct, sir?
This is so interesting to hear the Democrat. All of a sudden, the Democrats are the ones who are saying that, yeah, Oswald, the official theory is cool. It's all good. In the past, it would have been the other way around. People get their marching orders. This is the problem when we don't vote, is we end up with things like this. We end up with people who are like, hey, you got it. We got you into office, Mr. Garcia. And now we need some return on our investment. And there's Mr. Garcia trying to get them to say, yeah, Mr. Morley, you believe Oswald did this. He fired the shots, right? He's like, no. Mr. Garcia has no idea what he's doing. No comprehension, comprende. It's I don't even know where to start.
Yes. Okay. I know you have said that you also you have said that CIA counterintelligence was also either new information or could have been responsible in some sort of broader plot. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. But you have said, I think, just to correct what you said, you have said, though, that there is no direct evidence as of today that the CIA committed the assassination.
Here we go.
Is that correct?
I would say that the fact pattern that has emerged in last month shows culpability or complicity in the president's death.
But no direct evidence. Is that correct, sir?
We have very direct evidence of the CIA's surveillance of Oswald.
Get him.
No, I'm not asking about that. I agree with you, sir. I mean direct evidence that the CIA is connected with the assassination.
All of these events connect the CIA to the assassination.
I understand that, sir. I'm just telling you my interpretation of what's been presented is that I have not seen direct evidence. I'm not saying, by the way, that that the CIA or the FBI haven't been involved in a variety of
that is direct evidence.
We know that to be true, but I just want to make sure that I'm very clear.
What's this guy
I haven't seen direct evidence yet.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to just recognize again,
This
the
dude
classification issue is an issue, and I appreciate that clarification. I also think it's important that we're very clear with the public that no one should be defending the CIA or the FBI, particularly from this period of time. I think they were involved in very questionable practices, not just on this issue, but on a variety of issues.
Look at Oliver Stone. Like, what are you talking about?
I want to also just note that we should follow, of course, the facts wherever they go. Mr. Morley, in the run-up to this hearing, I know that there was some public reporting about this video that has been referenced. It's never before seen video of the shooting. That video itself is not a secret. I mean, JFK researchers have known about this video for a few years. Is that correct?
For decades, yes.
Okay. And the film is not definitive about Oswald's whereabouts at the time of the incident.
No, it is not.
Okay, and it's not regarded as overly important by serious JFK researchers. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. And it has never been a factor in major analysis in the causes of JFK's assassination. Is that also correct?
Not in mine and not in any of the researchers I work with.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's important to clarify that because I think there's a lot of speculation and interest in the video, but I think we should be very clear about what the video actually is. Also, I know as it relates to the rollout of the JFK files, it also included a lot of, I think, personal information. And Mr. Davison, I just want to turn to you for a minute. One of my concerns, of course, has been that a lot of personal information was actually released and has actually caused harm to certain folks. Can you just kind of speak to some of the concerns about the way that was released? That would be helpful.
Sure. So the National Archives was aware, as was the National Security Council from public reporting, that these records contained a substantial amount of personal information, including Social Security numbers, which are consistently redacted in public records requests and in prior disclosures under the JFK Records Act, and proceeded to
note the argument. The argument is not about anything related to the assassination, right? And I can see that. And if they would say, hey, we're going to redact phone numbers, we're going to redact Social Security numbers, I can totally get that. I'm totally with them on that. And where people live, I'm totally with them. Even on the financial stuff, but the financial stuff, because there may be some ties into what happened or who got paid what, I'm a little iffy on that. But I totally think that there's no reason to put people's social security numbers out there or put their phone numbers or their public addresses. That's just my view on it. Even if they don't live there anymore, even if they're dead, I would say, even if the phone numbers aren't active anymore. That's just me.
Complete this rollout with a sort of abrupt 24-hour deadline at the end without taking the steps that are ordinarily taken to redact that information and to ensure that privacy is protected. And as I indicated in my initial statement, there's a whole host of harms that can come from that. Obviously, it's deeply inconvenient for your social security number to be published. It is, that the White House has said they will issue new social security numbers, but there's a lot of harm that can happen in the meantime. And updating that information for an individual is tremendously complicated.
Thank you. My time is concluded. So I just want to add to that point that as we declassify and work with the archives and others, we've got to make sure that people's personal information, of course, isn't being used in a way that's
I totally
negative.
agree with him on that. But his questions, his line of questioning, his questions should be more focused on the assassination. We're here for the assassination thing, but I get it. This is all they have. This is all they can go to. And this is this guy's job. Mr. Garcia has just exposed himself in so many different ways by choosing what he's going to focus on and what he's not going to focus on. Let's talk about the assassination. Let's talk about the fact that there's no way that Lee Harvey Oswald could have done this. He doesn't want to talk about that. He doesn't want to focus there. That's not his focus. His focus is not on finding out, like all these, hopefully at least 3 or 4 of the people on the panel who want to know who killed JFK. Did Lee Harvey Oswald fire any of those shots? What does the autopsy show? Sorry, I got people on their little bikes outside. But those are the main things that we want to find out. So, yeah, you can spend a minute or two chastising people or chastising the government for not, for the Social Security thing, which I like the fact that the guy that was testifying mentioned that, hey, yeah, they are going to give people new Social Security numbers, which is cool. I think it would be unnecessary if they would have just redacted those. I mean, if you redact those, I got no problem with that. I don't need to know anybody's Social Security number. I want to know what happened. Even the way that a lot of the files were released, it was just like another data dump. Nothing is in order. There's no rhyme or reason to a lot of it. It's all numbered, so some of it does go, it's sequential, but it's like you got to go through all of this stuff. There's just got to be a better way in the future. I'm glad. I'd rather have them just release it all to the public and let the public do whatever they want with it. But in the future, there's got to be a better way to categorize this stuff, to be able to actually index it by name, by association, by agency, et cetera, et cetera. But I get it. They were in a crunch time. Trump's like, you got to put this stuff out. You have to release it now. That's it. So it's a double-edged sword. I'd rather have it all out there than have to wait a lot longer to get it out there and take the chance that they may find a way to not release this data. So it's a double-edged sword. We can be nitpicky like Mr. Garcia is doing, or we can just say, glad we got it all out there. Anyways, I'm gonna play a little bit more of this.
Docs her family, so thank you. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of our witnesses who are here today. I also believe I want to say that the American people deserve transparency, not just on JFK files, MLK, Epstein list, all the things. I also want to say I'm grateful to President Trump for keeping good on his promise for transparency. This is a man who literally also took a bullet for his country. And I agree with you, Mr. Stone, on your testimony and your opening statement. Giving our country, giving our democracy meaning and a purpose for a nation. And that to me personally means getting to the bottom of the truth, getting the truth out of whatever 3-letter agency is hiding information, whether it's from Congress, whether it's from the American people. But sunshine literally is the best medicine. And we've just seen over the last few years, regardless of your politics, but we saw 51 intelligence leaders sign a letter saying the Hunter Biden laptop was fake. Turns out that was a cover-up. We saw a presidential candidate and Donald Trump spied on by the political opposition. We saw Biden's health care, his health. The previous administration lied to the American people about the president's health. They called his falling down cheap fakes. We saw the origins of COVID covered up by a government. We saw documents after documents, hidden from the American people. Donald Trump was treated differently when they found documents at Mar-a-Lago versus the way Joe Biden was treated when they found documents in his garage. The government tried to cover it up, tried to cover from him. We were lied to about drones just in the last few months. And so when we talk about this, the deep state, not only was it around during JFK's assassination, but it's here today. It is right before our eyes. And they are doing this in real time with regards to the Epstein list, which the government still has not released today. And the American people deserve to know who rich and powerful is on that list and who the government is covering up for. So for decades, we've seen this happen, and I'll get to a few questions. Mr. Morley, I want to start with you first. You said, according to your testimony, in asking, what did the CIA know and when did they know it? What do you think that is? What is the answer to that question?
I just want to say, I want to preface my remarks by saying I'm a liberal Democrat, and I don't shy away from that. That's part of my reporting, and that's part of my reputation for straight shooting. What did the CIA know about Lee Harvey Oswald, and when did they know it?
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot. 198 pages worth of information were on the CIA's desk when President Kennedy left for Dallas. So that foundational fact should guide us in understanding what happened.
So who do you think fired the shot?
I don't know.
You don't know, but you don't believe it was Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oswald was not the intellectual author of Kennedy's death, even if he fired a gun that day.
Who do you think was the intellectual author of Kennedy's death?
Kennedy's enemies high in his own government is as specific as I can be based on the available evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Probably CIA and Pentagon.
How long had the CIA been surveying Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination attempt?
4 years.
4 years. And what are some of the highlights of the CIA's pre-assassination file on Lee Harvey Oswald?
They started reading his mail on November 9th, 1959, and they intercepted a number of letters between him and his mother. Those letters were forwarded to James Angleton in the summer of 1962. In the summer of 1963, Oswald attempted to infiltrate the CIA's favorite Cubans in New Orleans. He was arrested. The FBI sent reports on Oswald's arrest to Angleton's staff. They knew that he had attempted to infiltrate a CIA-funded group, that he had been arrested. And then they learned that he had attempted to travel to Cuba, a violation of US law at the time, and he had made contact with a KGB officer in Mexico City.
Okay, Mr. Morley, did the CIA or FBI have intelligence prior to the assassination of President Kennedy that Lee Harvey Oswald intended to kill him?
No.
Did the FBI did not either?
No.
No one did. And then how do we, Mr. Davison, how do we make sure the government is more transparent with Congress? You have 20 seconds. Good luck.
I think in general, the most important thing is to provide the resources to agencies to process public records requests or requests from Congress so that this information can actually be reviewed and disclosed in a timely fashion, whether you are concerned about the truth of the statements that you raised at the top of your presentation, or if perhaps you want to understand more about the Trump administration's hateful campaign against trans individuals. Either way, you would require more resources for public records disclosure and requests.
Okay, and just for clarification, Mr. Morley, this is about as nonpartisan as this committee gets. So, good job. Thank you. I'll now recognize Congressman Christian Morphy for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President Kennedy's grandson, Jack Schlossberg, said conspiracies surrounding JFK's death have shifted focus away from the important lessons of his life and the critical issues of the moment. So I'd like to focus a little bit on some of those lessons and issues. Mr. D. Eugenio, it's the start of baseball season. Go Cubs. So let's begin with JFK's 1960 letter to Jackie Robinson, in which JFK highlighted Robinson's role in the civil rights struggle. JFK said, quote, "I believe I understand and appreciate your role in continuing the struggle to fulfill America's promise of equal opportunity for all. Just last month, President Trump bizarrely ordered DOD to purge its website of all references to Black history, Black veterans, and even the reference to Jackie Robinson's own military service. In response, Mr. DiEugenio, you posted that what Trump did was, quote, really sick. That's what you said, and that's what you believe, right, sir? Yes?
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did. And
okay, I'm sorry. I don't recall saying that. Okay, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, it's
I
right
wish
here.
you'd have
This is
given
your
me
tweet.
before so I could have looked at it.
Mr. Morley, you said that JFK, quote, took great risks on behalf of all Americans in resisting the forces of militarism and racism.
Yes.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, recently eliminated, believe it or not, the prohibition on federal contractors using or maintaining racially segregated facilities. JFK would have rejected what Trump recently did, correct?
You know, I was invited here to talk about the JFK files, and I don't want to make a partisan political issue of it. Like I said, I'm a liberal Democrat, and if in general I had to choose between a conservative Republican like Donald Trump and a liberal Democrat like JFK, I would choose JFK.
Well, let me talk about USAID for a second, because that was something that JFK actually established. Sir, recently, USAID is now being shuttered. Again, that is something that is a very important part of his legacy, and that's something that he would have opposed, obviously, correct?
I think President Kennedy would have said that no government agency is sacrosanct, and I'm sure he would have said that any federal agency that should be abolished should be done in consultation between the president and Congress.
And that hasn't been done here, yes, sir?
Not that I know of.
Let me turn to another topic.
This is great. I want to stop it
Mr.
just for a
Stone,
second there.
some of your films.
This kind of shows when they say they're liberal Democrats, it's something very different than what you would call a liberal Democrat now. These are old school Democrats. These may be some of the remnants of the JFK Democrats, which is exactly what RFK Jr. is. He's a JFK Democrat. So when these guys come here and they want to get them into partisan stuff, it's interesting to hear these Democrats, these old school Democrats, coming out and saying, "Look, man, I'm here to talk about JFK. I thought that's what we're here to talk about, right? We don't need to talk about all this other stuff, this partisan issues. This is a nonpartisan issue. It should be, just as many issues should be. But if they are, I mean, who up here, these congressmen that are asking questions, which one of them thinks that the official theory is exactly what happened? Those are the ones. They ain't going to show up. The ones who believe the same way that we all believe that this was not a lone gunman, they're probably not going to show up. It's a political suicide from their view. When, you know, if they want to turn the party back to JFK, they would make some changes. They don't want to do that. This is not your mother's Democrat. It's not your grandmother's Democrat party. This is a completely different party. These people, the Democrats, are being exposed furthermore here. This is why things like this get absolutely no mainstream media coverage, because it shows that, yes, they agree. But then if they agree about what happened with JFK, then you agree with RFK Jr. Well, he's the enemy now. Just like Elon Musk is the enemy. Donald Trump is the enemy. If they all thought the same way, if they all fell in line, then it would be a completely different story. That's what we are seeing here. These people being exposed is great. What they are going to do, what these Congress people are going to do, from my view, is turn Mr. Morley, turn a lot of these old school Democrats they're going to turn them closer to President Trump and to RFK Jr. It's cool. Let's keep it going. I'm not going to argue with that because that's where the truth is.
Such as Platoon and Born on the 4th of July were inspired by your own military experiences in the Army when you deployed to Vietnam in the 60s, right?
That's correct.
We have this picture here of you in Vietnam.
Thank you.
I thank you deeply for your service. We actually found a picture of you in Vietnam, and you were awarded the Bronze Star for Valor, correct?
That's correct.
You've written that your Bronze Star was because of your actions during a, quote, mean little ambush, which had cost you a lieutenant, a sergeant, and even your scout dog, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was he saying?
He said that it cost you a lieutenant and your scout dog, the ambush.
No, that's another incident, sir. That was later on in another infantry unit. That was the reason that led to my Bronze Star. Bronze Star came in August of that year. This wound occurred in October of '67.
Can I ask you about that? It's ambushes like this where sometimes people are waiting opportunistically to fire upon you, but sometimes they have some type of information that allows them to lie in wait for a surprise attack. And part of that information could be your whereabouts or the timing of your arrival, correct?
You're talking about friendly fire or fragging? Is this what you're?
Ambush from the enemy.
Ambushed, to be ambushed by your own man, your own troops? Is that what you're saying?
Ambushed by the enemy, the adversary.
The adversary. Well, I'm a little confused, but I just want to make the point that yes, there was a tremendous amount of friendly fire casualties in Vietnam, and there's in any war, I believe.
Question is
in my experience, 10%.
He's trying to ambush you.
I think it's closer to 15 or 20% in terms of
Mr.
friendly fire deaths and wounds.
Yeah, Mr. Stone, we'd like to thank you for your service to this country. You are a
Thank
war
you.
hero. You have a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, and I think
Thank
this
you.
committee reflects that. Thank you. The chair would like to now recognize Mr. Burchett.
Thank you, Chair Lady. For over 50 years, the assassination of President Kennedy has been shrouded in secrecy and corruption. The American people have been lied to repeatedly by this federal government. President Trump's executive orders declassified the critical documents, I think is a step in the right direction. But Congress must ensure that the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. don't get away with what they've done, and they don't get in the way of transparency. Mr. Stone, I know you've talked about chain of custody, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on some of the NBC videos. And I know that since you've already talked about your service to our great country from 67 to 68, you were twice wounded in action. You received a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, an Air Medal, and the Combat Infantry Badge. And we salute you for your service, sir. Today is the 80th anniversary of the invasion of Okinawa, and that's an island my dad was on. And he told me, he said the Purple Heart was one medal he was glad he never got. Mr. Stone, I'm going to ask for the indulgence of the chair lady and the members if I could just yield my time to you and you to discuss anything you would like to pertaining to this subject and to ask any of the other men up here on the dais with you any questions you would like.
Well, I'd like to point out that in our film, JFK Revisited 2021, which is an important, I hope members of the committee have a chance to look at it because it is a follow-up to the original film, and it's a documentary made with Mr. Eugenio as a writer, in which we take the evidence from the AARB and we examine as much of it as we can. Included in that is the concept of chain of custody. We interviewed Henry Lee, who is one of the country's leading what would you call it?
He's the leading criminalist in America.
Okay, a criminalist, whatever that. Okay, he was saying to us repeatedly, and he's on camera, a chain of custody has to go from the scene of the crime to the courtroom. Otherwise, it doesn't. You cannot bring the charge on Oswald or anybody. Well, that doesn't exist in this case. We went through this in the documentary. The rifle itself is not the one that is described in the film. It was shown of a man, a detective walking out with a rifle in his arms raised. That rifle does not resemble the one that was bought by Oswald out of the Chicago, supposedly bought by Oswald. Hidell was his name.
The one held up was a Mauser, and the one he allegedly shot him with was a Mannlicher Italian
No,
carbine. I
the difference is that the one in evidence is longer. It's about 4 inches longer. It has a sling to it, and it has a screw in the butt of the rifle, which I consulted with some rifle experts, and they said Oswald could not have done that by himself. All right. So those are the differences between the one that the Warren Commission says Oswald actually purchased versus the one that they put into evidence.
I just want to say one quick thing here. This is great. I did not know about this movie. JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass. I'm going to have to look at that. I put the link in the chat, the Wikipedia link, but I'll put the bio link and all that stuff in there too. But I did not know about this. This is pretty fascinating. So what the point I really wanted to mention is all 4 of these guys on the stand here that are testifying all seem to be Democrats, old school Democrats, or at least 3 or 4 are old school Democrats, possibly. I don't see any of them that are leaning conservative or anything like that, but this is not about that. Again, I love how they always bring it back to focus. This is about JFK, what we know. And just saying, who's holding the hearing? Who's running the hearing? Who's creating this? It's the Republicans. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating to me. This is where we are in American history. I love it.
No rifle and no bullets, I said. Now, the bullets is even more ridiculous. As you know, there's been a long amount of controversy about the CE-399, the so-called magic bullet, which came out apparently undamaged after wounding 7 or 8 wounds. We don't have a chain of custody proving that those bullets were ever used. So those are not, they do not match the ones at the 6th floor that were pictured.
And that's the bullet that was found on the gurney, correct? Beside one of the bodies.
Yes, except we don't know which gurney it was found on. Okay. And then if you go to the chain of custody let me use this as an example. According to the evidence, all right, that bullet was turned over to the FBI at 9:20 that night. Okay, well, here's the problem. Frazier, who was the FBI ballistics expert, had the bullet at 7:35. How on earth can you have a bullet that hasn't been delivered into the White House? Because that's where the exchange took place. So that's one of the big problems. And I could go on for 2 hours on what's wrong with CE-399 as a piece of evidence. I don't think any district attorney in the United States would even try and submit CE-399 because it would blow up in your face.
Fascinating.
Concerning the medical that he mentioned, in the House Select Committee volume 7, page 37, you will see a quote saying that the witnesses at Bethesda did not see this blown out back of the skull, which the witnesses at Parkland Hospital saw, which is strongly indicative of a shot from the front. All right. Well, this is what happened. When the ARB declassified all the medical files from the House Select Committee on Assassinations, that turned out to be a lie, because as many people at Bethesda saw this blown out back of the skull as saw it at Parkland. There's, I think, 21 and 21. So you have a grand total of 42 people. Can 42 people all be wrong? You know, I mean, that just defies imagination.
435 people are often wrong, but that's Congress. That's Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Ms. Lee, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
That's great. I want to,
Madam Chair.
I'm going to stop it there just for a second. Just for a second. This is great. This is better than I thought it was going to be. A lot of this is the first time I'm seeing this. So I do want to play, because they mentioned this movie, JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass. I'm going to try to play the official trailer if I can here, if it'll let me. We'll see. Don't strike me down, guys. Just playing a trailer, 2 minutes.
What kind of a peace do we seek? Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, peace in all time.
The flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died some 38 minutes ago.
Here's the suspect, 24-year-old Lee H. Oswald.
I'm just a patsy. President.
Who actually fired the shots that killed Kennedy? Was there a conspiracy?
In the years since the Warren Report, there is now so much more that we know. Conspiracy theories are now conspiracy facts.
The Warren Commission successfully deceived the public.
Alan Dulles' appointment to the Warren Commission is one of the great frauds of American history.
Documents are withheld by the FBI, the CIA.
Intelligence agencies did all the wrong things if they were looking for conspiracy.
We will go back and piece together new facts and evidence that shed more light on what really happened here that day.
Commission believes that the same bullet that hit Kennedy hit Conley. Well, I don't believe it.
It is indeed a magic bullet.
Oswald was a figure of interest for 4 years before the assassination. They were reading his mother's mail.
His first year in office, Kennedy made many enemies.
He vows he's going to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces.
Have you ever committed any act of violence?
He was intimately involved in the cover-up.
Once you kill a president on the streets of American City, that sends a signal.
The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened.
If America really wants a democratic society, and we should get to the bottom of this traumatic crime that continues to reverberate throughout American history.
This nation will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Wow. All right. I'm in. I'm buying it. I'm gonna see it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this because I really wanted to focus on that. That just threw me off track. I had no idea, but that was amazing. Okay, I'll go back to this.
And our ranking member Garcia for convening today's hearing.
Here we
And thank
go.
you so much for the witnesses for being here. I don't want this task force to get drawn too far down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole.
Here we go.
When we convene these hearings, because the reality of the CIA's past action is troubling on its own. This dump of documents alone showed evidence of illegal surveillance, break-ins, overstepping of authority. We've even got specific instructions on how to wiretap, including how to use certain chemicals to create markings on phones to tip off.
And I'm sure she wants to relate it back to President Trump. Democrat from Pennsylvania. I'm just going to throw that out there, not having seen this. Let's see what she has to say.
Spies. But we already knew this was happening. We knew that the CIA committed human rights abuses and illegally surveilled people, which is why the work declassifying these documents is so important. We've got to have transparency, right? So that we can learn to do better, so that we can hold agencies accountable. But being reckless with this sensitive information is also not the way to do it. Declassifying documents around the assassinations of President Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. is a serious matter, and we owe it to the American people to get it right. Unfortunately, the rollout of documents we've seen so far has been sloppy and rushed. The release didn't really give us a smoking gun, but it did produce a plenty of collateral damage. Trump's actions have jeopardized the safety and security of hundreds of former congressional and federal employees by releasing their social security numbers and personal information to the public. And for what? To score political points by rushing the release. Many of the people whose personal information has been exposed are rightfully afraid about their identities being stolen and about threats to their personal safety. And people identified in the documents are already being forced to get new social security numbers at a time when President Trump is literally dismantling the agency that administers them. Mr. Davison, President Trump ordered the declassification and release of tens of thousands of pages within 24 hours. Do you think that that was problematic? And if so, why?
Thank you for the question. It was. going back to January, there of course was the executive order requiring the disclosure of all the records in the collection. My understanding is that the process was playing out, that the archives was conducting the review it needed to determine what few bits of these records needed to be redacted to protect, among other things, the privacy of individuals whose information was contained therein. And then that process was short-circuited. And despite awareness at the National Security Council and the archives that the disclosure of these records would cause tangible privacy harm, the rollout was conducted without redactions all the same, leading to the situation where hundreds of social security numbers have been disclosed, creating a quite scary and alarming situation for those whose numbers were implicated, who now have to rush to place freezes on their credit accounts.
That's their talking point. That's it. That's all they have. It's all about Trump. Trump did this bad. Trump did it wrong. They didn't like the way that he did it. It all comes back to Trump. They're more focused on Trump than they are on finding out what happened to our president, who killed our president. And it's not surprising because they didn't give a damn about who took a shot at President Donald J. Trump. Can't be surprised. I know you're not. I'm not. But you can see the talking point. You can predict it without even knowing what they said.
If they're issued new social security numbers, to update all of that information with all of their various accounts and creditors and so forth. So that it is a serious issue for the people affected, and it could have been avoided with just a little bit more due diligence of the sort that the archives normally exercises.
Yeah. So is there a way that
right.
Trump could have protected that personal information?
All right, just a little bit more. If we would have waited just a little bit more, they've been waiting a little bit more for a very, very long time. The fact that we are here 40, 50 years later is not President Trump's fault. And they will blame things like that. Well, we can't redact that. We got to redact. You could have redacted that a long time ago and gotten all of this stuff out there. They didn't. It was all left to President Donald J. Trump to make sure that we get the information out there. So when you hear people like Miss Lee talk about what, some of the protocols, the processes, she doesn't care about MLK's death. She doesn't care about JFK, about RFK Sr. It's not about that. It's political. That's the problem. That's the problem. And that's the problem that they're going to have to deal with for years to come. It's all on the record. These idiots are putting themselves on the record, and we can see what they are focused on and what they're not focused on. They're giving Oliver Stone more content for another movie, for another follow-up on all of this. Who cares? Is that a face that cares? Fuck no.
Is there a way that the president could have protected that information? Yeah, by going through the ordinary process of reviewing these documents and dictating that these particular social security numbers and other sensitive financial pieces of information would not be disclosed with the records.
Certainly, thank you. Mr. Morley, as someone who's read through all of the documents, do you think that the documents could have been better organized so it was more accessible to more people?
I want to say that the release of the social security numbers and other personal information was unprofessional, reckless, careless. I'm the vice president of the Mary Farrell Foundation, which sponsors the largest online archive of JFK, RFK, and MLK records. And I was authorized by the president to release this statement about the social security numbers. While the MFF is an advocate of full transparency and the JFK Records Act make no exception for such information, we are electing to redact all the social security numbers in these records, unlike seemingly mundane document details, which sometimes do add to the history of the case.
Yeah.
Social security numbers add nothing of value and expose their holders to possible identity theft. Accordingly, when we put these particular documents online in the coming weeks, we will be adding our own redactions to them. We will not be redacting other information Most other data is long.
Certainly,
obsolete
Mr. Morley.
in any case.
Thank you so much for adding that.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear. An open and transparent federal government is essential for public trust, and declassification is a good thing. There is a way to do this. It is important that we are not sloppy, that we are not rushing things, that we are not doing things in just a haphazard way, as we've seen with so many things that DOJ and the
Not
administration has touched.
rushing things.
What we want,
Not rushing things. We're talking about 50 years, 40, 50 years. They had plenty of time to redact that. They had plenty of time to do all that. But they left it up to President Trump and then blamed him for it. No, he's not going to have to take credit for this. They had plenty of time to redact any of that. They weren't redacting that stuff. Look at the stuff that they were redacting that shouldn't have been redacted. They were redacting things that involved the CIA, the FBI, what Oswald did, apparently Oswald's mom, how involved this was. Oswald may have been groomed. Oswald's mom may have been groomed. That may be another reason why. She may have been involved in some other things too now. That's what I'm thinking. And that's why she was kind of a little bit more silent here about this stuff. It's all starting to make sense to me. Some of those holes, those puzzle pieces that I couldn't find, I'm starting to see them now. This lady doesn't give a crap about that. It's political. It's about DOJ. It's about Trump. They are so far into their anti-Trump syndrome. And look at the lady on the right here. She may be thinking exactly what I'm thinking. This is about JFK. Let's find out what happened to him. Don't you care? Let's find out what happened to MLK. Don't you care? We're going to focus on some of those things that we all agree with. But those aren't the major issues that we should be focused on. And the reason why is because Trump said, we need to get this done. Get this done and get it out there so that this doesn't happen again. These are records we are talking about from 40 to 50 years ago. When we talk about Social Security, I don't have Social Security numbers, all that stuff, phone numbers, addresses. I totally agree, but we're talking about so far back that what does it freaking matter now? These are people that are involved in some very nefarious things. And I hate to use that word because I may not understand what that word means.
is for this information to be out. We want people to understand the past, our agencies, the CIA. We need to do it right. With that, I yield back.
Nobody's impressed.
Thank you very much. Without further ado, I'd like to recognize Ms. Boebert for 5 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to our witnesses for being here today. Hopefully we can stay on topic for the rest of this hearing. We seem to be wrapping up pretty close here. Mr. Stone, you wrote a book accusing LBJ of being involved in the killing of President Kennedy. Did these most recent releases confirm or negate your initial charge? Being involved in the assassination of President Kennedy.
No, I didn't. In the film, if you look closely, there's no such statement. No, I didn't. If you
Yes,
look
sir.
closely at the film, there's no. It accuses the President Johnson
Okay.
of being part of a complicit in a cover-up of the case, but not in the assassination itself, which I don't know.
What do you think that he was complicit with? Yes, sir. I'll get to you.
The cover-up. Well, how about, for starters, appointing Alan Dulles, the head of the CIA, who was fired by Kennedy, to the commission itself, to the Warren Commission. And he goes to almost every meeting, and he's pretty much in charge of the Warren Commission from the beginning. Alan Dulles. That's part of the evidence that points to President Johnson's either incompetence or involvement.
Mr. Morley, I think you had something to add on that.
I think you're confusing Mr. Oliver Stone with Mr. Roger Stone.
Stated it yet. Sorry.
It's Roger Stone who implicated LBJ in the assassination of the president. It's not my friend
Is that what all the
Oliver
whispers
Stone.
were there? I may have
Okay.
misinterpreted that, and I apologize for that. But there seems to be some alluding of, like you said, incompetence or some sort of involvement there on the back end. And so sorry, I'm going to move on. Mr. Morley, I would like to talk more about the CE 399 and this file. I want the American people to know what's in there, that what was recently released, how that lines up to this, and how we could get more clarity there.
I'm not familiar with the number that you mentioned.
Mr. D.
Are you talking about Commission Exhibit 399?
Yeah.
Okay.
I yield my time to Jim.
All right.
I have more questions for you too,
All right.
Mr. Morley.
The Commission Exhibit 399 has a very wild trajectory, which I think any person familiar with ballistics, would question in the first place. Then the second place is it has a very, very dubious chain of custody. All right, from it was first captured at Parkland Hospital. Tomlinson and Wright, who worked there, turned it over to the Secret Service. Then the Secret Service turned over to the FBI. Any investigator would want to interview Mr. Wright because he was the security guy who turned over the bullet to the Secret Service. Well, Wright was not interviewed, and there's a good reason he wasn't interviewed. When Josiah Thompson was writing his book, 6 Seconds in Dallas, he interviewed O.P. Wright, who was the director of security at the at Parkland Hospital. And he said, yeah, I'm the guy who gave and Thompson put up a picture of CE 399 in front of him. And Wright said, they say that's the bullet that I turned over to the Secret Service? And he said, yes. And he says, no, I did not turn over that bullet. And he opened up the drawer, okay, and because he was in charge of the whole security thing, and he pulled out a bullet and says, this is the kind of bullet that it wasn't a hunting round, okay, all right? And so he said, and he was, by the way, he was so stupefied that after the interview, he chased Thompson down the hallway. And he said, are you sure that's the bullet I said, that they said I turned
Oh, there we go. Once again, let the stream catch up a little bit. Hopefully it's going to catch up and we'll see. But it is lagging. It's definitely lagging. I want to make sure we can get back into that. Boebert, she dropped the ball. She dropped the ball big time. And I don't know too much about her, but she confused Oliver Stone with Roger Stone. I mean, that's a pretty big deal to me as because Roger Stone, I'm not a fan of Roger Stone. I'm a fan of Oliver Stone. I like Oliver Stone. I like his movie. I'm really looking forward to watching that. I'm actually going to go and watch that. Well, I'm going to watch the A's game next, but I do want to see this movie, JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass. I'm very, very excited. It's like a documentary follow-up to what we know. But Boebert, sorry, while I was listening to her and she got, how do you confuse Roger Stone with Oliver Stone? No. It can happen to the best of us, to the worst of us, but it happened. I don't know how you can do that. It's a congresswoman, and she's like, "Oh, okay, we'll just move on here." I'm glad that she apologized. She took credit for it, but it's a pretty big deal. Roger Stone, that dude seems slimy as anything. So I would not put anything in front of Roger Stone. I'm surprised. I don't know Trump why he got Roger Stone involved in any of this, but whatever. That's a whole nother issue. I think Trump was so focused in 2016 on getting the presidency, and that's why half of the people he surrounded himself with were all snakes and scumbags. But that's just my view. What do I know? I'm just here. I like this guy, Mr. Morley. I'm gonna have to look more into him. He seems very focused on. Yeah, he doesn't like Trump. He doesn't like all that, but he's here to talk about JFK, and he's gonna give you his thoughts and all that on that. They're still riding the bikes outside. Sorry, people.
Was released last month revealed that when Angleton put people on the list for intercepting their mail, his purpose was to approach them to be a contact or a source. So I believe that Angleton, when he put Oswald under mail surveillance, was considering using him as a contact, as a source. The means of surveillance that were used were first mail surveillance, and then Oswald came under photographic surveillance, wiretap surveillance, and contact with CIA-funded groups.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I yield.
I now recognize Ms. Crockett for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. There often isn't too much agreement when it comes specifically to Congress, let alone to this particular committee. And I will tell you that y'all have given me all the feels as someone who had an opportunity to practice law. So when you start talking about things such as chain of custody, these are the things that I used to challenge all the time as a defense attorney. And the reason that I had to make sure that I was here and specifically on today is because on November 22nd, 1963, Texas 30th Congressional District, the district that I represent, became the site of one of the most tragic events in American political history. After being struck by the bullets of an assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, President Kennedy was rushed to Parkland Hospital, where hardworking physicians from the UT Southwestern Medical Center worked tirelessly to resuscitate him. During the 48 hours between the moment President Kennedy was shot to the moment when Oswald was pronounced dead, Texas 30th Congressional District became the temporary seat of the U.S. government, the temporary seat of the Texas government, the site of the 35th president's death, and the center of the world's attention. While I value government accountability and transparency like most of my colleagues, nearly all the previously classified JFK assassination files are now public and show no evidence of a CIA conspiracy. But what I find funny about this hearing is that the Republicans are here relitigating whether CIA agents lied 60 years ago, but aren't doing anything about the CIA director lying to Congress just 6 days ago.
All right,
We should be having a hearing on the
gotta
fact
stop
that
there.
the
She is
unqualified Secretary of Defense
so.
and other senior.
This is wow. Okay, this is exactly what I thought the Democrats would not do, but this shows how crazy some of them are. She's reading off of the paper. She's not looking at the people and giving her own thoughts. She's reading off of a script, and she's basically saying the CIA did nothing wrong. They weren't involved, et cetera, right? I mean, this just shows how wild, how crazy this person is. Why would they say this? Why? I mean, it's Crockett sucks. Sorry, I don't know. She's just she's gone. She is gone. But look, she's looking down the whole time. The whole time here, up until she starts talking. I'm gonna go back a little bit to that. She's all dressed up and dolled up and got the big puffy shirt. She got the Seinfeld puffy shirt going on. That ain't gonna help you. That ain't gonna help you. And she's from Texas, but the 30th district. So, what do you expect?
That y'all have given me all the feels as someone who had an opportunity to practice law. So when you start talking about things such as chain of custody, these are the things that I used to challenge all the time.
Oh
as
yeah,
a
she's got it
defense
all
attorney.
figured out. She knows it
And
all.
the reason that I had to make sure that I was here and
Oh yeah.
specifically on today is because on November 22nd, 1963, Texas 30th Congressional District, the district that I represent,
Oh, that's why she's
became the
gotta
site
be
of one
there.
of the most tragic events in American political history. After being struck by the bullets of an assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, President Kennedy was rushed to Parkland Hospital, where hardworking physicians from the UT Southwestern Medical Center worked tirelessly.
She's reading from a script. This is not her own thoughts, her own vision. She's bought and paid for. She's a bot, a CIA bot, right
fearlessly
there.
to resuscitate him. During the 48 hours between
Even
the
the lady,
moment President
look at the lady. Look at the lady to the right of her. She's. Oh, you probably can't see it. All right, let me make it full screen. That lady to the right of her knows what's going. He's like, what are you talking about? You crazy
Kennedy was
lady.
shot to the moment when Oswald was pronounced dead, Texas 30th Congressional District became the temporary seat
It's
of the
her
U.S.
district. This
government,
is
the
my
temporary
hometown. These are my streets, boy.
seat of the Texas government, the site of the 35th president's death, and the center of the world's attention. While I value government accountability,
She's just reading, completely reading. There's nothing sincere, nothing organic, nothing regular. This is a CIA script she's reading from here.
and transparency, like most of my colleagues, nearly all the previously classified JFK assassination files are now public and show no evidence of a
No
CIA
evidence.
conspiracy.
No evidence of a CIA conspiracy. Come on. Come on. I mean, she has no shame. Absolutely no shame. Bought and paid for.
But what I find funny about this hearing is that the Republicans are here relitigating whether
The only thing funny about this hearing is that puffy shirt you got going on. That pirate shirt. I am a pirate.
CIA agents lied 60 years ago
I
have
can't
decided
say
to do
too
it this
much.
way.
And she's probably just going to speak
And
for the
breaking
whole
the law
time,
by
right? She's not
nearly
going to let
impossible to
anybody
produce a
else
film
talk.
if there was
Well, she's
not
not
a
going to let anybody
legitimate
else
record
talk.
of
I'm
these
just going
events
to go ahead
taking
and
place.
talk right over her. There you go. He's like, what did she say? This crazy lady.
Well, that's a very good question. Not really. Oh, sorry. That's a very good question. Not really. I mean, the events unfolded as they did, and right away, from day one, people were pointing out inconsistencies way before there was an official record of this.
Thank you. With that, I will yield.
She's done.
Mr. Morley, Mr. Stone,
That
Mr.
way. Destroyed.
Eugenio, I just want to say thank you for being here, taking time out of your day. And I want to apologize that not everyone on this hearing seems to want to use this time to its fullest extent. And so I want to start by saying thank you, Mr. Stone. Shortly after your film's release, the United States Congress passed the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992, and you did something that I don't know that I've done in my career. It passed unanimously. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about how it felt and the impact of having a movie that not only has spurred multiple hearings of Congress, but unanimously passed a bill through Congress.
Sir, I was at the time, I was told that by many people who were involved, and they were very happy and thought that this was a great public duty. I didn't feel that way. I felt like I was being skewered the whole time in the media. And many people volunteered, important people volunteered negative impressions that were not based, I don't think, on reality. That the people didn't bother to see the film, for example, and were saying that he's got Lyndon Johnson and all that involved and blah, blah, blah. And he's got 55 people, different agencies involved. I mean, this is nonsense.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of the American people, thank you for what you did, because
thank you.
Because of your work,
That's
we
wonderful.
now have documents like this one. Madam Chair, I'd like to enter into the record a CIA document that ends in number 10056.
Without objection, so ordered.
In this document, it describes that it dispels the narrative that when Oswald visited Mexico City, that he only met with Sylvia Duran. In fact, in this document, he met with a KGB official. Remarkably, the individual by the name of Kostakov was actually a member of KGB and Department 13.
Yeah.
Because of your work, we now have this kind of evidence. He actually met with a member of the KGB who was part of the Wet Works, the assassination team. I also want to say thank you because of your work, we have another document that I want to enter into the record. This is ends in 10191.
Without objection, so ordered.
In this document, we have a testimony that an individual named Francisco Tamayo, otherwise known as the El Mexicano, accompanied Lee Harvey Oswald into Mexico City for his meetings in both the Cuban embassy and the Russian embassy. Mr. Stone, I'm shocked that this narrative is only really been something that we've seen only in the last few years. You would think that the Warren report would have reported the fact that Oswald had met with a KGB individual in the Department 13 of, basically the assassination division, and that he was accompanied by an individual known as El Mexicano that later an FBI report indicated that this individual, El Mexicano, was captured in Venezuela for attempting to assassinate another individual. Mr. Morley, I want to ask you about Mr. Angleton. Who is Mr. Angleton?
James Angleton was the chief of CIA counterintelligence from 1954 to 1974. In that period, he was one of the most influential men in the CIA, serving under four different directors.
And what did he tell the Warren Commission in 1963 and 64?
When the Warren Commission came asking Angleton for information about Oswald's visit to Mexico City, Angleton wrote a memo or told his aides that he wanted to, and this is a quote, wait out the commission. He did not cooperate, and like like Richard Helms, they both basically fooled the Warren Commission and deceived them about what they knew about Oswald.
And later, we now have, because of the work of Mr. Stone and others, we have Mr. Angleton's testimony that he gave to the Assassination Committee, the House Select Committee on Assassinations. What insights did we gain from that?
This document was not fully declassified until March 18th, and in there we learned for the first time that Angleton had lied to the House Select Committee when he testified in October 1978 in an office building about 2 blocks from here. And that was never known before until March 18th that he had done that. And that is one of the most significant revelations to come out of this. People will say, oh, well, there's nothing new here. No, there's something new here. The New York Times, the Washington Post have never reported that 3 top CIA officials lied to the JFK investigators.
Yeah, and the fact that we have 3 CIA officials that lied to Congress for decades, and that it took decades to get documents that should have been released that had very compelling information, and it took 60 years to get that information released, is appalling. And that's why I want to say thank you to all of your work in helping to get this information released.
Thank you.
I'd like to now recognize Mr. Crane for
Chair.
5 minutes. Oh, sorry. Unanimous consent without objection, so ordered.
So I have some more documents I want to enter into the record. Here's from the National Archives, a NARA letter dated 2017 that the CIA.
All right, so you can go and you can watch the whole thing. I got to go check out. I want to go join Ross's stream and just kind of jump in the chat. They're talking about High Plains Drifter over there on. Man, I wish I had this on. I'm on a different place, or else I would put that up there. Planet X Filmworks, and they are talking right now about High Plains Drifter, and they do a lot of great movie reviews, and hoping to join them there. God bless you all. Thank you all for joining me here. And remember, Jesus Christ loves you, and so do I. Until next time, and it'll be very soon. Until next time, God bless you.